say so long to Sasaki. He will not be a Texas Ranger. Does that make you so sad? It probably shouldn't. But we'll talk all about that and what the Rangers will do next as we get started now on the DLLS Rangers podcast. Look at Chris Young's face in that graphic. Is he worried? No, he's not worried about this. He'd like to have signed, or at least had a longer opportunity to sign Roki Sasaki, but he has decided to sign elsewhere and notified the Rangers as such yesterday. Hi there. Welcome into the DLLS Sports Studios. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. John Radigan Rad's here with J-Dub. That's Jeff Wilson. We got the hardworking Prophet over there. He's pulling double duty today, having already done the Cowboys show, and Lord knows that's a big deal these days. So we appreciate him, and we appreciate you. Like us, if you would, subscribe to us. Now we're sneaking up on 14,000 subscriptions, so please keep them coming. We appreciate it very much, and we need to get one of those milestone numbers on our show.
That's right. The Mavs.
They've all been on the damn Mavs show.
Yeah, I tell you what, we need to get there.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think most of theirs were on post-game shows. So I think, and you go longer, and, with a one night, I think maybe it was for 10, they went into the wee hours of the morning till they could get to 10.
Yeah,
so
I mean, we'll have some late nights, I think.
Yeah,
but,
we will.
I don't know that I don't know, it's got to be a big number for me to stay up past past 1.
Yeah, maybe 50. 50 grand. Anyway, we like having you here. We like chatting with you around lunchtime every day. We're a little later than normal today, but here we are. And the news, it's not great, but it's, again, there were going to be 29 teams that didn't have the opportunity, Jeff, to sign Roki Sasaki.
Yeah, ultimately, I thought they would always get into the mix. I thought the Rangers would get an interview with him. They'd done too much work. They have too much history in Japan, and they just won a World Series not that long ago. So there are a lot of reasons for Sasaki to be curious about the Rangers. I just wonder if, it's just going to end up being, the Padres or the Dodgers, who, everybody thought it was going to be. I know the Blue Jays are in the mix, and not a lot of attention has been brought to them until yesterday, really.
Yeah.
But apparently he visited Toronto. Okay. Hope he had a good time. It's chilly there this time of year. I really think, though, that if I'm going to criticize him, his decision-making process, he really needed to come to the ballpark. He really needed to see the ballpark. Because apparently, when the Rangers contingent left their meeting with him in Los Angeles there before Christmas, they were told what a great presentation it was, and they had done a fantastic job. And you just wonder, he had 8 or 9 teams. Okay, did he want to get it down to 3? And if he was torn between the Blue Jays or the Rangers, or Padres and the Rangers, or whatever, go visit the place.
Yeah,
make sure you've left no stone uncovered. But the Rangers weren't counting on this. They were hopeful, like everybody else is hopeful. But their rotation isn't suddenly falling apart because Roki Sasaki is not going to be in it for the next 6 to 16 years, however long you wanted it to be. They're still in the same position they were, yesterday morning, before they revealed that they were not in it.
We've gotten some confirmation, obviously, that he did visit Toronto. Do we know that he's visited San Diego and or Los Angeles?
Apparently, he has visited San Diego. Look, the Wasserman Group's office is in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So it's just Well,
easy one.
depending on traffic, it's a 2-hour drive down the highway. And Dodger Stadium's not far from where they are at all, at least as the crow flies, and depending on where the fires are.
That's the thing.
And so, but it is down to 3. It's been reported by the biggies, Passan and Rosenthal and Heyman, that Sasaki has narrowed it to 3. And if you're the Rangers, you hope it's the other league. I think
Sure.
or at least it's not going to be your division. Honestly, if he does end up with the Blue Jays, the Rangers might see him twice a year at the most. Just looking at the landscape, the Blue Jays landscape, it's not like they're going to be a playoff team anytime soon. So maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing ever if he was if he ended up in Toronto. But the air will get cleared here eventually. I don't know how much Sasaki's going to say. I'd imagine that the Rangers will be a little more forthcoming once the process is over. But they're out, and it's time to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and interestingly, in the Sasaki saga here, we were speculating and late heard that one of the sort of mystery teams was Seattle, but it doesn't appear that they were in the mix at all.
No, and I think it surprised a lot of people. I think that the teams doing their diligence internationally were, kind of the guys in Latin America were looking at prospects from the teams who they thought had a chance at Sasaki, and I think they all thought the Mariners had a chance. I wouldn't be surprised if a Mariners deal falls apart here in the next 24 hours. Honestly, it's not nothing. Nothing's official till the ink is dry down there, and anything pretty much goes down there. So if a team came in late and said to a Mariners prospect, "Hey, we'll give you an extra $500,000," he's probably going to take it. But
sure,
and that's going to be the interesting thing with the Rangers. Now they're moving on to the international signing period, which opens tomorrow. I'm sure they have, they usually sign about 20 kids. A lot of them are like $10,000 signees. You don't really have to worry about. They're not at the top end this year, like they had been in the past. I mean, Paulino Santana, who the Rangers signed last year, he was developing at such an upward trajectory that people think that he was the pick of the draft of the signing of the season, and the Rangers got him for $1.2 million. They reached these agreements, when these kids are 14 and 15.
Yeah.
And even younger than that.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, they go through puberty or they just figured something out, and all of a sudden you look at the list on MLB.com. Paulino Santana is rated as the 3rd best international prospect in the game. But the Rangers have had success with him. Obviously, Sebastian Walcott was a key signee. Anthony Gutierrez has kind of been banged up with injuries and hasn't quite gotten on track. But this year, though, the Rangers are not. They have one top 50 prospect, and he's in at 37. His name is Roki Rodriguez, infielder, outfielder from the Dominican. They have another guy named John, like you spell it, though, Jhon Duran, a Dominican kid who's a lot like, physically at least, Rodriguez. So they have guys who they're going to give $500,000 to, $300,000 to. But the key is that they've kept their powder dry a little bit. They have more than $2 million. So when Sasaki signs with the Dodgers, the Padres, or the Blue Jays, they aren't going to be able to sign all their guys. And unless they can convince them to hang on for a year and wait for their payday in 12 months, they're going to lose them. And there was one prospect the Dodgers have already asked one prospect to consider staying around for another year. He said no. And he signed with the Pirates for basically twice the money. So the Rangers could be able to do that. Remember when Shohei Ohtani didn't sign with the Rangers, they had all this international money, and they used it, and they sprinkled it around, but they used a huge chunk of it on JP Martinez, who at the time was this, supposed to be this next great player from Cuba. Didn't pan out. He's no longer with the organization. I think he's with the Braves organization. But there's always a plan B, and plan B, Plan B looks like about Plan Z when you're comparing Martinez and Ohtani, and maybe that's what's going to happen with Sasaki and whoever the Rangers are able to pluck away from if they're able to pluck anybody away. But there's a fallback plan in place here, and people working on it right now in the Dominican. The deadline's tomorrow. The Rangers have all their key international folks there. Their deals were never threatened to fall apart. They had arranged with a lot of these guys, or all of these guys, hey, we may get Sasaki, stick with us, and they did. So tomorrow's going to be a pretty successful day for the Rangers in terms of acquiring talent. And there's two big ways to acquire amateur talent: the draft and the start of the international signing period. So the Rangers will be adding prospects to their system tomorrow, and they're going to be good players.
It's great, and it's it's a definite something they likely would have lost. Let's put it that way. Some of these players, had they been successful
right.
in signing Roki Sasaki. Now the Rangers, the Padres, and the Blue Jays all sit there right now at a total of about $6.2 million in their international signing pool. Right.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, ironically, have less money than that. They're 5 and high change, I think. But anyway, do either of those three teams that are still alive now begin to try to trade for it? I know you can only do it $250 grand at a time, but are they going to try to acquire more international money, either to pay Sasaki or perhaps more importantly, to be able to get some of these other guys?
Right. Well, and that's part of it too. They do want to have some semblance of an international signing class. But one scout friend of mine thinks that Sasaki is going to start kind of if you will, an international bidding war. It's not much, right? But like you said, $250,000 is the maximum you can add. Let's say you wanted to get from $6 million to $10 million. You've got to make 16 trades.
Yeah, it's a lot of trades.
All right.
Yeah.
And you can't, no team can afford to get rid of 16 prospects. Let's say it's just, one player for $250,000. Let's say that you can't do it. At some point there's going to be a limit, and even getting $1 million could cost you like 4 to 6 prospects.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Now money wasn't supposed to be a factor, they said, but it seems like it's a little bit of a factor. And that's why I think the Blue Jays are in it, because while the Blue Jays potentially could lose their general manager, their manager this year, and their superstar first baseman, Vladimir Guerrero, after this year.
Right.
But they're owned by Rogers Communications. And Rogers Communications is the biggest telemarketing company in Canada. They do cell phones, TV, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They have the money.
Rights to all the hockey teams, the rights to all the baseball.
They were going to make Shohei Ohtani the face of Canada and the face of Rogers Communication. They had deals lined up, in their presentation, this is what we can do for you beyond the terms of your contract. Sasaki ended up not taking it, but that's why the Blue Jays are kind of in the mix for all of these guys. They have a huge financial backing. They just can't, maybe it's something with the tax differences. I don't know, but they just have trouble. And it's hard to see Blue Jays games. It really is. I mean, yeah, you can have DirecTV or whatever, but there's a reason why when the Blue Jays make the playoffs, they're always the early game.
Yes,
because Canadian households don't count in Nielsen ratings.
Yep.
So it doesn't satisfy advertisers in the United States. So Toronto, I would think, is on the outside looking in. They're certainly not in the West Coast. They're in the Eastern time zone. It's cold. Their stadium, if Sasaki were to tour the Rogers Center and then go tour Globe Life Field, it's no comparison.
Night and day.
Yeah. Rogers Stadium's not particularly nice. They've made some upgrades to it, but still, I think the Blue Jays have a real tough battle here. But
yeah.
Everybody thought that about Ohtani and their chance with Ohtani too.
Sure. It was really nice, Rogers, in 1994. when they built it, or 95, whatever it was. But yeah, it has aged as most of them do, and it's not nearly as nice as it was then. Technology has changed so much in that period of time. More coming as we continue to take you down this road of what's going on through the offseason with the Rangers, and we want to know what's next for the Rangers. Some of the questions in the chat have been about that. We're going to talk about what is coming next for the Rangers, how they respond to the loss of Roki Sasaki. It's all coming up. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. First, though, it's Empire Today, and Empire Today is the best. There's just no doubt about it. There's no other way to say it. They're the best flooring you can possibly get your hands on, and they're the best. It's the best flooring you can possibly put down on your floor, like we have done right here in the studio. We encourage you to check out Empire Today and figure out exactly what you need, right? They'll help you. They'll help you decide how much flooring you need, and they'll even do you the solid of if you take a picture of it, of showing you what that room or the other room or this room would look like with their flooring, and they'll give you options in that room. It's a great technology. It's a great company. All the others are imitators. They're copying what Empire Today has been doing for so long in these parts. So get yourself over to EmpireToday.com. If you go to EmpireToday.com and use the code DLLS, we give you $350 off your new floors.
Yeah, $350 will help you make a lot of sleeper picks. Sleeper, my favorite app. I'm having a good time with it. You guys would too. Known for their fantasy stuff, they're now into the daily picks. As you can see, the graphic will Patrick Mahomes throw for more or less than 218.5 yards. You make your choice. You got to have a two player minimum, and you can bet as little as $1 if you want. It's just fun. And now that college football season is winding down, it's time for me to start focusing on college basketball a little bit more. And you can do college picks. I did some the other day. I went 5 for 7.
Not bad.
Not bad.
In basketball, that was?
Yeah, considering I don't really know a lot about the college game right now and the flow of it, but it's fun. It's just fun. So use code DLLS Rangers to get a $100 first match deposit sleeper, your new home for daily picks.
Yeah, it's a great website, a great app, and we encourage you to be a part of it. Now, what will the Rangers do next? That's the big question, and the answer is really not much different than they would have done next if they had signed Roki Sasaki, right? I mean, the money wasn't going to be a big factor if they'd signed Roki Sasaki. So they'll proceed as they, and besides which, it was coming from a completely different pool. So they'll proceed as they were going to proceed anyway. And so then, yeah, I suppose there might be, Jeff, a little bit more of a question as to whether or not this means that they might need to look at some of the starting pitchers that are still available, the Jack Flahertys of the world, in that we've done the math on their starters, and we probably can't count on a heck of a lot more than 120 innings out of anybody in the starting 5 or 6. So you're talking, 600 or 720 innings. That doesn't comprise half of the number of innings in a season.
Yeah, it's you can definitely make a case that they're a starter short for sure. But, is it going to be, would they take a, 170 innings guy if he's good, and if the price is right, sure. But I don't know that they're necessarily looking that way. I think that could be something that happens in spring training. Every spring somebody gets hurt.
Yep.
Last year it was Josh Young. The year before that, Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, and John Gray all missed time and weren't at, they weren't completely stretched out when they hit the regular season. So these things happen. And every one that happens, if the guy's not able to get back by opening day, that's one shot out of your depth. So you need to have these depth pieces. So it could be a situation like that where they sign a guy maybe to a minor league deal. Somebody you've heard of now, Adrian Hauser is a guy that people have heard of who's already signed a minor league deal. Maybe there's another one. Jose Urania last year was a minor league deal, ended up throwing 109 innings, making some starts. And really, for a while there, he was a really critical piece for the Rangers when Eovaldi was out in May. So, could it be something like that? Sure. I don't know that a Flaherty, somebody in that price range, makes a lot of sense. Just because they do still want to sign a closer and need to sign a closer. And I know what was said last week by Ross and CY, we're open-minded, but they're still looking, and open-minded means the price has got to come down. And so if that happens, none of the big three, if you consider Kirby Yates one of the big three, have signed. None of the big, let's say, four have signed. Throw Kenley Jansen in there because he's pretty darn good still at his age. Rebound guys like Paul Sewald, though I'd stay the heck away from him just because of the familiarity with the division would have with him. Craig Kimbrell, a veteran guy who might have something left. They're just guys out there. Jose Leclerc is out there.
Yeah.
So, I know Jose Leclerc won't be the answer to Rangers fans' prayers, but he would be another arm, another candidate to close games. I still think it's Yates is the guy. I saw something where the Cardinals are no longer looking to trade their closer, Ryan Helsley. So it seems like maybe trade opportunity is less, though. There is the question there about Robert Suarez. The Padres apparently are shopping Suarez, who's an interesting guy, and I'm sure the Rangers would have some interest in him. So anyway, maybe there is a trade out there, but the point being, maybe the Padres needing all this international cash, maybe the Rangers can turn some of that into Robert Suarez. Who knows? But we'll see how it plays out. But I think a closer kind of outweighs a starter.
I agree. I think that is the focus right now. When Chris Young was on with the Foul Territory guys last week, he basically said that the same things that he's told us, and the same things that Ross told us, which is basically, we're fine with the group we have. But he acknowledged that, look, the reality is we've not thought of Chris Martin as closer, right? And again, in part because he hasn't been,
right? Right.
But in part, I think that indicated that's not what they had in mind when they brought Chris Martin in.
Right. You make all these moves. You Jock Peterson, Kyle Higashioka, you bring back Nathan Eovaldi, you add 5 relievers, so you're spending this money and helping raise as they say, the floor of your roster. Well, the ceiling needs a little attention. All right.
Yeah.
And if you have the money to do it, which it looks like the Rangers still have the money to do it, you don't just leave this gaping hole on your club.
No.
You go and get a guy. And maybe it ends up being a deal that doesn't come around until spring training. The closers, relievers typically don't need a lot of time to get ready.
True.
You'll see a reliever get hurt and then start the season with only like 5 spring innings on his ledger. It is entirely possible. I don't think the Rangers are too keen right now on giving the closing opportunities to a guy like Mark Church or pitchers who've never been in the major leagues. No. They may throw hard, but they don't know how to pitch just yet. So I just think that's the next shoot a drop. Just not sure when it's going to drop.
Yeah, and look, the one thing we know, and the one thing that Chris Young and his baseball operations staff has demonstrated is they know and have known what they want, right? And the thing that we've heard from every free agent that has come in here is that the Rangers, they put a target on me and they came after me, and in I think every case they got him. Jock Peterson, Kyle Higashioka, all these guys that they have wanted, that they identified as guys who were, potentially very important to them, they've been able to do a deal with. So I believe they'll be able to do a deal with whoever the closer might be, and I'm with you, Jeff. I think it's Kirby Yates. That said, I think the fact that this offseason has been so active, not just for the Rangers, but for so many teams. We've had some of these off seasons last year, foremost among them, that like the moves crept along at a snail's pace. This year, guys are flying off the shelf. And so I think what that's done is cause all of us to lose patience a little bit. Like, come on already.
Yeah.
Get a closer in here. Well, they have time to get a closer in here.
Well, yeah, and the pool's the same as it was pretty much 2 months ago.
Lost anybody, right?
A couple guys. I mean, Kyle Finnegan was designated for assignment, and I think he signed. Jordan Romano, who was also not designated for assignment, non-tendered because of his injury woes, he has signed. But the free agent group is pretty much the same, and so I think that maybe clubs think that closers don't need to be paid $19 million a year.
Sure.
If you look at the playoffs this year, the guys who ended up closing games out weren't Mariano Rivera, and Trevor Hoffman. This was Blake Trinan, Walker Buehler saved a starting pitcher, saved Game 5 of the World Series, a clinching game. So how much value does a closer really have? Well, to a contending team, I think a lot. Now, I know the Brewers, they traded their guy after he gave up the goods against the Mets in the playoffs. I don't recall Edwin Diaz doing anything special in the postseason for the Mets. Josh Hader, did he even get to pitch in the postseason?
I don't remember it. I don't think he did.
So it's just, but still, if their runs had been extended, you would have seen Devin Williams save a bunch of games or pitch in very high leverage situations. Okay, how about Clase? There's a guy.
Yeah,
he was not good.
No,
and so that's how much. Do
you want to pay for that?
Do you want to pay for a guy who's a roll of the dice?
To the extent that every league, not just baseball, but every league becomes a certain amount of a copycat league, right?
Yeah.
So, and this probably isn't happening, but you could see it. You could see other teams, other organizations going, the Rangers won the World Series in 2023, and they had a crap bullpen, right?
Yeah.
Numbers-wise. Again, I don't think they had bad people in the bullpen, but they just didn't perform all year long. And so maybe teams are looking at it going, I just don't know if we need to invest those kind of resources in a closer or in a high leverage arm when you can have great success without. Now, you better look at the entire body of work if you're looking at that and realize that those guys who were in those high leverage situations and weren't having success during the year for the Rangers did during the postseason.
I would. They're a couple. Sean and Mason are very, very kindly correcting me that Hader did pitch in the postseason. He gave up the go-ahead double to our old friend Andy Ibanez.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's kind of proven. They're kind of proving our point. Hader's supposed to be this great closer, and he is.
$19 million. Yeah.
And Clase, unbelievable year, got Cy Young votes, and was just not good. So. And then to your point also, the Rangers in 2023 in the regular season blew more saves than they converted.
Yep.
And yet they're the ones dogpiling at the after the final out of the World Series with guys that they had all season. Jose Leclerc and Josh Spore's doing the heavy lifting. I know Aroldis Chapman was in there, but he was pretty much at that point 3 batters and get him out because he was putting guys on base. So maybe it's not a good time to be a free agent closer. If you look, what's the biggest deal, I guess, this offseason is Jeff Hoffman with the Blue Jays, right? Signing the 3-year, $33 million deal after failing a physical with the Orioles. That's $11 million a year for a setup guy. Maybe he does become a closer. I don't know. But all right, so he's getting $11 million a year. How much more are you going to give a closer? And how much more are you going to give these closers?
Right.
This group of closers. Tanner Scott's been a closer, but he's been a setup guy. Carlos Estevez has had some ups and downs, needless to say, as a closer. And then Kirby Yates, he's 38. Kenley Jansen, I don't know how old he is, but he might be 50. He's
he's getting up there.
So long. So we'll see what happens. But I don't think a $15 million a year closer is out there this year.
No, it might not be this year, and the Rangers will be fine with that. They'd be fine to get Kirby Yates in, I think, at around that $11 million a year, even if they had to go a couple of years with him. So we still think that's going to happen. We hope it does. The Rangers, we believe, need that to complete this really successful offseason thus far. International signing deadline is tomorrow, so we're going to talk a little bit more about what that process entails and some of the best names that are out there, not only for the Rangers, but for other teams as well. We've got our batting cleanup segment coming too. Next segment, we'll also get to more of the questions as we chat with you from the chat. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. But first, how about a little neon on a Saturday? Yes, Saturday neon. You'd get to use the neon every day. You really would. You could turn that baby on anytime you wanted, but especially on Saturdays because that's right now their focus is college, and the colleges play football, basketball, even baseball on Saturdays. So it's Saturday Neon. It's a couple of friends from college who decided to start this company, and they've gotten accredited with like 50 colleges and universities, most of the big ones. Jeff's mentioned before, no TCU yet, and I'm still working on Oakland University.
Yeah, we got to get both of them.
We got to get the Frogs and the Golden Grizzlies involved, but the OU one might take a little longer. But anyway, we do appreciate Saturday Neon very much. We think neon is so cool. It's LED neon, by the way, so it looks like neon, but these are LED lights under the neon, and they adorn your room to make it look like a wonderful, warm place to watch a game.
Yeah, and if you're going to get a sign from Saturday Neon for like your man cave or for your bar area, wherever you watch ball games, probably ought to get a Rugged Road cooler just to finish it off. Especially if you're having a party, you want your drinks out, or if you're a camper or an outdoorsman, you probably slide one on a golf cart somewhere. And then, of course, like I say, coolers are a staple of the Wilson household because of baseball and softball tournaments. So go to Rugged Road. These things are light, they're durable, they float, and they keep your stuff cold for up to 7 days. That's a long time. So this is what you need to do. Go to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use the code DLLS for 10% off. That's ruggedroadoutdoors.com.
Yeah, it's a great product, and we want you to save some money. So go on over there and figure out which one you want and how much you want to spend because it's a great product. All right, so it's the International Signing Day, basically, for Major League Baseball. And, Jeff, first of all, this ain't the Wild Wild West anymore. Once upon a time, there were no rules. And fortunately, there are rules involved now where you have to do things a certain way. But that thing has gotten bigger and bigger with more focus and more attention, maybe much like the baseball draft has over the years.
Yeah, it like I was saying earlier, teams can get talent, amateur talent, one of two ways: draft and the international signing period. And teams have invested so much money down there, so much money. These facilities are first rate. And you're right, it's not the Wild Wild West; it's just the Wild West.
Yeah,
we'll say.
Yeah,
because it's still. While there are, a bonus pool and spending caps in place, it just doesn't feel right. A lot of the things that go on down there, clubs have started making commitments to these guys when they're about 13 and a half, trying to get them into their program, see how they respond to, weight training and things like that. Look, we're talking about kids who are just starting puberty in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So you don't know what are they going to do? How are they going to grow? So you look at the parents, or the parents in shape, or whatever it is. It's an inexact science. There's also the trainers who are called buscones. At least that's how they're referred to here. I don't necessarily think it's a flattering term in the Dominican Republic, but they take a slice of the pie. They'll put these kids, house these kids, and train them, and all of these things. and by investing in in a kid, the parents in return and the kid in return pay back when the kid signs. So there's some bad deals down there. Just some questionable things that go on. The Rangers in the past have been accused of falsifying a birth certificate with Jairo Barris, and AJ Preller came out when he was hired as general manager of the Padres. He had been suspended by Major League Baseball while working for the Rangers for some of the stuff he was pulling off there. I asked that question once, and it did not go over very well. So anyway, yeah, it's there's more laws, but it's not buttoned up. There is some lawlessness down there. All that is to say that tomorrow is life-changing money for these kids.
Sure.
$10,000 changes lives for a lot of these kids. There are stories that you hear. A lot of people might remember the name Michael De Leon, a former Rangers minor leaguer. He was from the Dominican Republic, a shortstop. I think he got to AAA maybe, never panned out. He signed for $550,000 back before the signing cap, and they signed the contract in his grandmother's house, and it had to be during the day, and they had to do it with the door open because they didn't have electricity.
Wow.
So they had to have light coming into the house to be able to see the contract. The Barris thing, I've seen the home where he grew up, and it was a tin shack. My neighbor has a nicer shed for his equipment than Jairo Barris grew up in.
Wow.
So
yeah.
it's startling to see. You see these little towns off of roads, dirt roads. They may have a bar, but they have a baseball field. And they all are in varying conditions, but these kids are out there playing. They understand, and it's kind of a saying, and I think it's true. Sugar, I think, is the number one export in the Dominican Republic. Baseball players is right up there.
It's got to be number two, yeah.
And so this is a big deal for a lot of families. So and like we said in the first part, the Rangers have one top 50 prospect. That's on the Baseball America list. His name is Elorki Rodriguez. John Duran is another one who they really like. And I got another name right here. Saviel, Saviel, Zayas, Zayas, and then Wesley Castillo. Other guys that the Rangers really like. And I was told that the Rangers had come to agreement with some guys, up to 2 years ago, for a lower rate, and now they've really taken off. And so the Rangers are getting a bargain. They some guys who ordinarily would be signing for a lot more than what the Rangers are getting. So it's just kind of a wild card thing,
Yeah, it's a roll of the dice, and it's proof that it's such an inexact science, And again, drafting, fully grown college men out of in the NFL or in Major League Baseball, and they can go belly up, right? They can be a bust, as we say. So to try and figure out if this 13-year-old who seems to have really good fast twitch fiber and good hand-eye coordination and can see the ball, whatever, trying to figure out if he's going to be a great player is really difficult. Not only for the team, it's difficult for the kid. Yeah. So when the kid at 13 sees pretty good money, he might not realize, wow, if I wait 2 years, my muscles are going to get bigger and my hand-eye coordination is going to get better, and I could get really good money.
It's just, like, how do you scout a 13-year-old pitcher?
Right.
So one thing that I was told is that if a kid who's 13 or 14 has a lot of spin rate on his curveball, that means that there's a lot of action in the wrist and the arm, and that the velocity is going to come. So that's one thing that they look at. But still, you got to do your homework too. What kind of family background does this have? Byron Laura. Nobody knows what happened with Byron Laura. He was the Rangers' big signee in 2019. Light tower power. It just had a terrible home situation. I think his parents his family ended up taking a lot of his money. I don't know what the accusation that ultimately got him suspended from baseball. If you do that, It's not good, but he was in a car wreck that, one of the passengers was killed. Just, you gotta be able to trust that the player, when he gets all this money, is going to have support and isn't going to go off the rails. So it's hard. It's really hard. But the Rangers, of course, have had success stories. Nomar Mazara comes to mind. Well, really, I mean, if you want to go back to the late 80s, late to mid 80s, Ruben Sierra, Pudge Rodriguez, Juan Gonzalez, those guys. And then you can go forward into the 2011,
Sammy
I think
Sosa.
it was. Yeah, Sammy Sosa, right.
Yeah.
Go to 2010 or 11 when Mazara and Ronald Guzman signed for a combined $8 million, a little over $8 million and change. It was mind-boggling at the time. Mazara had signed the highest bonus ever, and look, he was an okay pro.
Well, for a year or two, it looked like it was going to be more than worth it, and
right.
he just never took that next step at the big league level.
Right, he hit like 20 homers for 4 straight seasons.
Yeah, he just couldn't
exactly
get over the hump.
20. And Guzman never figured it out. Now he's trying to pitch. But they were great kids. Guzman's parents made him graduate from high school before he could sign. Mazara's dad was in the military. He said, he swears, general in the Dominican Navy. Of course, that pisses everybody off. It's like, oh, there's no generals, there's admirals, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I'm just telling you what the kids said. Anyway, he was from the city of Santo Domingo, so he had discipline. He wasn't overwhelmed by coming to a big city in the United States. And then a guy like Garrett Barris, got $4.6 million, I think, and never got out of A-ball.
No.
So there are hits and misses. It's high risk, high reward.
That's the bust. And again, we don't hear about them. You hear about the guys who are a bust when you draft them, in the NBA, you draft them in NFL, even the busts that the Rangers have had in the draft, right? Yeah. The first rounders that just never materialized. But you don't know about these international guys, even if they made a big signing bonus.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't remember what Acuna and Soto signed for, but they were in the major leagues at age 19.
Yeah.
And then the Rangers got Luis Angel Acuna for $100,000, I think it was. Might have been a little more than that. Rougned Odor was a $400,000 signee. So, you get your money's worth from some of these guys. You can say that Luis Angel Acuna, even though he didn't play in the majors that year, helped the Rangers win a World Series.
Sure.
So, it'll be interesting to see what comes of these guys. Of course, the big ones now are Walcott and Santana. Still not a lot of pitchers ever really come through and have these terrific careers. Well, obvious exceptions, Pedro Martinez and really, I mean, there's only 5 Dominicans who are in the Hall of Fame, and Pedro's one of them. Juan Marichel's the other. But
you got to go back a long way. That was
back before the current state of events. But anyway, tomorrow's always an interesting day. These agreements are already in place. It's just a matter of getting the kid to sign the line. On the line, they'll get pictures made and all that stuff, and then honestly, you're not going to see him for a while.
No,
these 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds in some cases, they stay in the Dominican for this first year unless they're really, really good. Last year, and with Walcott also, Walcott was accelerated, made it to the United States, and changing it from a July thing to a January thing, which was the result of COVID. That really kind of helps accelerate these guys a little bit because they can go through spring training and all of that stuff. But you're not going to hear from these guys for a while.
No doubt. And nowadays, those who are picked by the Rangers and stay in the Dominican, they don't mind it. I think, Jeff, you were on that trip, weren't you, when we went down and saw the Rangers Dominican, the new facility, the academy that they have down there. It's fantastic, and it's a palace, and especially as it pertains to what they had before.
The old one was I think they would have rather been in prison, honestly. Prisons are nicer than that place.
Yeah, there were, I think it was Jose Leclerc told me he would sleep under the bleachers at the old place. I mean, there was it. Now they have these beautiful dorms.
Right.
They've got a food hall. They've got, I mean, it's really
they have their
nice.
own rooms instead of like just a big bunk room.
Yeah.
They've done a nice job.
Really nice. They did. And I remember John Daniels was on that trip with us, and JD said, sometimes you just, like, I don't know if this will pay any dividends. It probably will. At the time, he was probably being humble, but he's like, I don't know if it'll pay any dividends, but sometimes you do the right thing because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
And that was the right thing to do for the Rangers, not just because other teams had a nicer facility, not just because, they were embarrassed by the one they had, but because it helps these young men, achieve not only success at the big league level or possibly at the big league level, but there's schooling for them there. It'll help them be better human beings, whether they have a career in baseball or not. So it's a really cool thing. And the Dominican is unbelievable if you visit it, because there is, everywhere you drive, abject poverty, and it's really amazing. And then you get over to the resorts, and it's unbelievable. That's even more unbelievable.
Punta Cana, I've never been, but Punta Cana is not where these baseball players live.
No, that's right. No, beautiful place. So anyway, that's what's happening tomorrow. That's International Signing Day. We'll be all over it. We'll keep you updated. We'll let you know what we hear about what the Rangers have done, who they've signed, and see if we can figure out how good this class, if you will, might be. More coming as we clean things up on this edition of the DLLS Rangers podcast. Jeff, you got the merch, baby. Go on.
Yeah, I've got the sweatshirt on today. This is the camo sweatshirt. You see the logo. I'm looking at a screen. There it is. Okay. It's nice. It's camo. It's warm. It's cozy. On a day like today, it's perfect. But there's all kinds of stuff. John, I know, has got a T-shirt on underneath his pullover.
I do.
So even as he's still awaiting the birth of grandchild number one,
we're on a permanent holding pattern.
He still has DLS merch, and you can too. Store.allcitynetwork.com. Check them out. Shirts are $34.99. I think the sweatshirt's $59.99. And as Jeff Kavanaugh pointed out yesterday, you can get a free T-shirt when you become a diehard. You can't get a free sweatshirt, but as a diehard, you can get 20% off. So that's $12 right there. So anyway, do it. Rep DLS, the best sports outlet in the Metroplex. I think it's pretty safe bet to go ahead and say that. Yeah, it definitely is. As we continue to grow and continue to improve, our becoming a diehard is a no-brainer, because what you get is all the content that we provide, much of which is written. So this is like one of the other groups that does this type of thing. The Athletic was the one I almost said, or the Dallas Morning News. Those guys, we're doing the same thing. The difference is we're doing it better and we're doing it cheaper, right? So they're a lot more expensive than we are for their subscriptions. So $79.99 to become a diehard and get all that stuff that's written. And of course, we're also here talking about it. When the Mike McCarthy news broke yesterday, our Cowboys show was on the air, and they just stayed on the air, on the stream, I should say. And they just stayed on the stream until they were done talking about it. And we do that for you. Become a diehard today. We'd appreciate it. All right, let's clean things up here, Jeff. Bubba Thompson. Yeah, Bubba. How about our buddy? Now is going to walk on and try to play football at South Alabama. Well, Bubba was a great high school football player. Yes. And you can tell why. He's super athletic. He was a quarterback, not a receiver. I think Tolbert for the Cowboys. Yeah, Jalen Tolbert. Yep. Was a high school teammate of his. They were, yeah. Bubba had Division I offers, but he ended up signing with the Rangers as, I believe, the 26th overall pick in the 2017 draft. Got almost $2 million, so it made a lot of sense. And, Bubba could run, still can, just hadn't figured out how to hit major league pitching. And really, last year in the minor leagues, he didn't hit that well either. He hasn't announced that he's retiring from baseball. So I guess theoretically he could do both. I wonder though, I had this thought, how I wonder if he could make more in NIL money than as a minor league baseball player.
That's a great question, and I bet he could.
And South Alabama, where he's going to try to walk on, it's in Mobile where he's from. So, I just wonder if maybe Bubba's going to get paid to play college football.
Yeah, it's not a bad thought. And look, in his hometown, theoretically, he could even live at home, right? And you're saving money that way too. It's not a bad thought. Last year, just less than a year ago, he was on the opening day roster of the Reds. I mean, he's a guy who has shown talent, and he's certainly a guy who, managers can see the value in someone like him, especially as a possible defensive replacement, but most importantly, with that speed. It's just intoxicating for a guy who could be out there stealing bases and creating havoc on the base paths, a pinch runner type.
Yeah, when he made his debut, he had been at AAA, and I think he stole like 45 out of 47 bases.
Amazing.
Just super, super fast. He's one of the coolest guys I've ever been around. He's just laid back. He has a different way about him. You think about somebody from the South, kind of cool and doesn't let stuff bug him. Bubba Thompson, and he was a hoot. He came on the weekly podcast, I believe in 2022, and it was our second highest watched show. And just people love Bubba.
Yeah, he's easy to like. He's a, like you say, kind of that homespun wisdom and down home kind of guy.
Yeah.
It is interesting, though, when you think about it, because we've talked a lot this offseason about sort of raising the floor of the talent level in the Rangers organization. And this is probably another example, right, of thinking about the floor then as opposed to the floor now.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, he was a potential piece of the future. The offense never came together, but defensively and on the bases, he is a major leaguer. But you gotta do all three. But it's kind of interesting. 16, 17, 18, the Rangers drafted high school players with their first pick, and they haven't gone back.
Nope.
Into the amateur ranks. Extremely high, extreme risk with these guys. In 11, Joey Gallo was actually 39th overall, 38th overall. Lewis Brinson was their first round pick. They're very similar players, super athletes who never figured out how to hit. There was a couple college guys in there like Dylan Tate and Chichi Rodriguez got in there, but then there's Luis Ortiz. It's like, all right, this guy's not, nothing ever really came at him. He was out of shape anyway. I can't for the life of me think who their first round pick in 15 was, but it's just there's been a definite shift with the Rangers and their draft philosophies. Those prep players, unless and even then, if you don't know. I mean, the Rangers thought that Jack Leiter would be in the rotation by now.
Sure.
And he's not.
Yeah.
So, and that was coming up on 4 years ago. So, a lot of risk. Wyatt Langford appears to have been their safest draft pick in quite a while, really. Josh Young was 8th overall. Okay, he's in the major leagues. Justin Foscue, 14th overall. He's teetering. And then Leiter, 2 overall. Rocker, 3 overall. Langford 4 overall, and then Malcolm Moore, the catcher from Stanford last year, at 30. So you'll see them move, you'll see them have bumps, and the problem is when a guy is taken so early, he's supposed to be in the major leagues right away. It doesn't work that way. This is not the NFL or the NBA or even the NHL. Some guys go to the minor leagues, So it's tough. It's tough player in development and signing guys, but the Rangers at Piers are trying to minimize the risk, maybe go from extreme risk to high risk.
Sure, and that's the whole point to it. It goes back really to that international stuff when they're signing 13-year-olds. They aren't sure the 18-year-olds coming out of high school are going to develop. I mean, again, you're not sure anybody is, but you're much more sure the older they get, the more you start to see how their body is going to develop, their mind is going to develop. Yeah. So all those things are definitely a factor. They did in that Rocker draft, of course, they went to the high school ranks and took Brock Porter. But here he sits.
Right. And you wonder, geez, what happened to Brock Porter? Well, he's 20 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, there's time.
The baby.
Yeah, there is time. But yeah, it's like you never know, and guy might get homesick.
Sure.
Might have a problem with his girlfriend. Who knows? And then injuries are always there. So you got to have a lot of patience with major league player development.
Yeah, it's an art. It's not a science. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Reds have decided or are now ready to spend a little more money in this offseason, and that is because of their deal with this new old partner called Main Street FanDuel. It's Main Street /FanDuel. That's the name of the new company that was Diamond Sports, that was Bally. Okay. And, of course, last year or maybe two, the Reds had been taken over by Major League Baseball. And that was not a good financial deal for any of the teams that had that happen. The Arizona Diamondbacks, the San Diego Padres, both of whom had been with Bally. They were making ridiculously more money with Bally than they were able to get from Major League Baseball. And now you'll get nothing from Major League Baseball if they take over your broadcast. Figure it out. That said, the Reds have this deal. It's only a 1-year deal that they've signed. Maybe it's sort of a, let's test the market with this new group deal. But they've signed a 1-year deal, and they feel like they'll have some money to spend in free agency. I didn't see any numbers on what the deal was, but it's better than what they were getting from Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and I saw a question earlier in our chat about if the TV deal, the Rangers' lack of a TV deal, had any effect on the Sasaki thing, and I don't think it did.
No.
By the time the big money's supposed to come around for Sasaki, the Rangers would be should have their TV situation ironed out. And I was at the ballpark Sunday, and I saw some folks and was asking, "Hey, what's up with the TV deal?" And they're like, "Well, heard it's supposed to be heard it's supposed to be before New Year's. Heard it's supposed to be January. Now it might be spring training. So I don't know when the announcement's coming, but you're getting to the point where you're really running up against the season."
Yeah, I think the nice thing is that thus far we have not felt a ridiculous pinch as a result of it.
Yeah.
We have not heard anybody reference it, right? Which you did. That's all you heard for a couple of years. Even in the years that they were signing the big deals with the Marcus Simeons and the Corey Seagers of the world. And the next year when they got DeGrom and all the guys, you'd still hear, well, but we're not sure about the TV deal in the future, right? We're not hearing anything about that now. I think they feel pretty confident about it, and we're going to keep trying to ferret out when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. But I think that the only reason they're, quote-unquote, keeping their powder dry and they're not spending to a limit today while they're trying to conserve their money a little bit is that CBT, that collective bargaining tax. And many teams find themselves in that boat. Again, we heard Hal Steinbrenner say at the beginning of their offseason, which was November, hey, you can't just go down this road of exceeding that CBT every year because it becomes more and more penal. In other words, there's a stiffer penalty, and that's financial every year that you do that. The fees that you pay to Major League Baseball, which are the tax, right? The tax that you pay is greater every year, and it grows somewhat exponentially.
It does. And the Bally deal, as I recall, Chuck Greenberg helped negotiate it right after he bought the club, had escalators in it.
Yes.
And was going to be worth more and more and more. And getting it over $100 million, that's a ton of money.
Yeah.
So to replace that much money in this market right now, in this uncertain landscape, I just know that I don't know if it's possible.
Right.
And unless you've already established your own network like the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the two DC area teams. So it's I don't know. You're just what is a good TV deal going to look like in 10 years? How much money is that going to be? What is it going to look like? So it is it's just uncharted waters.
Yeah,
really.
and it's one of the reasons I thought that the Rangers may do a 1-year try with this new group, Main Street and FanDuel, because again, they were prior to the end of the offseason, or the beginning of the offseason, I should say. Bally at the time, but they knew where they were headed with this Main Street FanDuel. They were offering certainly north of $50 million. Somewhere, I'm told, between 50 and 100.
Oh, okay.
So that's significant, right?
Is.
But I also get that when you were getting 111 or 118, whatever their high water mark was from Bally, 50 or 60 or 80 even doesn't seem like much. But it's a lot more than a lot of teams could even dream of getting.
Sure.
Holy crap, we're done.
Yeah, we can keep going if you want.
Yeah, we love you. We
though.
want you to love us, like us, subscribe to us, and we're here every day at noon. And we're still talking, man.
You got time? I mean, your phone's been blowing up.
Yeah,
over
it has
here.
been. Let me look. Let me just make
I'll
sure.
keep talking.
Yeah, you talk for a minute.
There's some questions out there in the chat. Do you plan on being present for the Rangers Fan Fest Saturday? I do. We get there. I don't know. Whenever Chris Young talks is about the time I'll get there, and it's usually the first thing on that day. So I'll probably be there about 9, depending on the autograph schedule, which should be released any day now, and the player availability. Don't know that I will stay long, but we'll see. I will be at the awards banquet on Friday night. I'm actually presenting an award, which I really wasn't given an option to not do it. So I'm presenting the fittingly the Richard Durrett Hardest Working Man Award to Josh Smith. So I've got some thoughts running around in my head, and I'm sure I'll get up there and forget them all. So it may just be this year's winner, Josh Smith. No, it's a big week. Like we said yesterday in the show, amid the chaos of switching out Jeff Kavanaugh and all that stuff, this is a big week for the Rangers.
Yes.
It turned. They thought they were going to get Sasaki news this week. It turned out not going their way, but they still need to hit Wednesday right with the international kids, and then a lot of players and coaches are in town this week ahead of Fan Fest, getting looked at, tuned up, whatever it is, getting a progress report on the work they've been doing. So it'll be big. It'll be good to see guys, talk to guys. I imagine we'll talk to Wyatt Langford. He's the rookie of the year, so we'll probably talk to him Friday night. And Corey Seager, see what the heck is up with his body. Adolis, who I'm sure we'll ask for an availability with Adolis. So a lot of news is going to come out of this weekend. Yeah, and Pudge is going to be in town this week too, and I intend to have a chat with him. We'll also see about getting him to come in if one of these times when he's in town to join us. And when you see your buddy Josh Smith and hand him that award, hey, how about a little payback here? Come on the show. But either way, something for the effort.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So you know what? I actually completely off subject. I saw the most funny underrated line from Caddyshack the other day on some meme. He says, Danny, I put boys younger than you send your boys younger than you to the gas chamber.
Didn't want to do it.
Didn't want to do it, but I felt that I owed it to them. That's just so funny. Judge Smales. Anyway, but lots going on, and there are a lot of people to see and talk to. And I tell you what, I'm going to Fan Fest too, and I'll at least try to get there for the CY thing like Jeff. But the Fan Fest is very worthwhile. Yeah. You should do it. As a fan, if you've never been, it's extremely worthwhile. You get out there and you see guys, and there's breakout sessions. In the past, many times as part of the broadcast team, I was most recently I was up on stage interviewing Boach his first year. I was talking to Mike Bassick yesterday. He's doing one sit down with I think he's doing CY, but then the cool one that he loves, because this is in his wheelhouse too. He's doing, I think he said at 2:00, a sit down with Josh Young, and they're talking baseball cards.
Oh, nice.
That's all they're talking. And Mike Bassick is a big card collector, and we know so is Josh. So anyway, there's a lot of really fun stuff that goes on at FanFest. You get up close and personal to the players. They do have, as Jeff said, autograph sessions, and the lines typically aren't terribly long. They're long, but they're not terribly long. So anyway, I'm a big fan of FanFest, and if you haven't been, you need to go.
They're actually having a card show at.
Are they?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a full blown show, but there are definitely people are going to be setting up. So if you need to get some cards of players you want autographs from, I'm sure you'll be able to find them there. But yeah, Josh and I and John Moore on the weekly show last week talked a little bit about cards, and he's into it. Pardon my phone here. My sister's calling me, and all kinds of music going off. Ramblin' Fever by Merle Haggard. But anyway, it is a good time. You can get on the field and do stuff with the little kids.
Yep.
And sit and listen to guys you know and guys you really enjoy listening to or want to hear from, like Chris Young.
Yeah.
It's first thing, though. It's almost always first thing. So get there early if you have questions for him.
Very good. That's going to do it for us today. Again, almost for sure, based on these texts I've been getting, I'll be a grandpa tomorrow. So I'll be here to talk about that. I'll be here to talk about Rangers. We'll be here to talk about everything you want to talk about. We appreciate you chatting and hanging out with us at lunchtime. The rest of the week, we're here at noon every day. We hope you will be too for the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.